Morning, everyone.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
Morning.
Steve,
Okay, it's 9:30. We'll get started in just a minute. Thank you for everyone who's able to make it here this morning. This came about because of communication from and his wife with concerns about the property we're referring to as RSM. So I asked Doug Finch, our town manager, to be here so he can share his screen and provide the nuts and bolts that you may ask about that I may not have off the tip of my tongue or at my disposal here. I apologize for the glare behind me. I'm in my basement, as many people have heard me complain. My daughter is virtual high school right now, and I get yelled at frequently for talking while she's in school taking tests. So she wins that battle, and I'm stuck in the basement, as you can see from my basement windows and my drop ceiling. So, Doug, if you want to, we have no set format for this. We want to hear from you. So actually, Doug, if you want to introduce yourself and just
Systems on there.
take from here, we'll play it by ear. I know a lot of us have meetings after this, so we'll go as long as we can.
yeah, and I know that some people are still joining too, so I'm just kind of like pausing here as I'm still admitting people and people are still getting connected here. But thank you very much, Kathy. So I'm Doug Finch, I'm the town supervisor. So let me just kind of give you a 30,000 foot view of kind of what's going on with this, and then we'll get into some questions and answers and dialogue and those sorts of things. And just so everyone is aware, we are recording this. We are recording this meeting, and so that we can share this with everyone. I just need to pause just a quick second, just take care of one thing here real quick. So
I'll jump in. So some of you don't know I'm the town supervisor. I think Doug misspoke. He's the town supervisor. He's our town manager, and I appreciate all that he's doing for us here. So nice to meet all of you. And for those of you that do know me, nice to see you here. Doug, you want me to keep going, or?
I think I'm ready now. Sorry.
Okay.
Doing 20 different things here at the same time. So, okay. So kind of what's going on, I'm going to just share my screen here so that you can see my screen. You should be looking now at a map, hopefully. There's just a few people that are still joining, so that keeps popping up on my screen. So just still doing that here also. You should be able to see a screen. Do you see the screen with a map that's labeled possible park? Okay, just making sure.
Yes, we do.
All right, perfect. I think we've got about 22 people on this meeting here with us. So what we have been doing is talking with the owners of this land. This land in its entirety is all of this. I'll share with you here on this screen. So this property is owned by RSM or the Mancinis, or who owns this property. And this goes back many years. I believe it was 2005-07 timeframe when that property was purchased by that developer, and they went through a pretty lengthy process over quite a few different years to get approval, which they do have, to construct a housing development on that parcel of approximately, I think it's 66 units. I'm going to say give or take 70. It's just under 70, I know, is what their current approval is. And they could actually, you can see here all these individual lots that I'm showing you on my screen. Every single one of these lots has been subdivided and been approved to construct on for quite some time. They could actually pull a building permit today and go ahead and get started on the construction of those approximately 70 units there. So that's a pre-existing approved development that goes back for quite some time. I'm gonna pause just a quick second because there's a few more people just jumping on. I just want to make sure I've got everybody admitted here. So, okay. All right. And we began having conversations with the developer about the possibility of the town, and it's very much in an exploring phase, but about the town possibly purchasing the lakefront for that parcel for the purposes of a town park, for the purposes of access to Canandaigua Lake, by the community, by the residents. So I'm going to jump back over to here. So the conversation that we've been having with them is the purchase of plus or minus about 4 acres. That would be this lakefront parcel here. I'm going to just jump back one more time here just to show you both sides of County Road 16. This is all currently one parcel. You see when I highlight that, that all shows up as one parcel. So that's technically one parcel that is on both sides of the road, includes that lake frontage that is on the road there. Additionally, this parcel is a separate parcel that's already been subdivided and been filed with the county for quite some time. That parcel also has easements on it. There's a sewer line and some water lines that come down the hill, down that portion. And then the rest of this piece would be part of what's currently an open space designated spot by the developer, owned by the developer. It does include a portion of it that has an easement. You can almost make out where the sanitary line came out of the Lakewood Meadows area. It was kind of right on this corner here and then kind of came down. You can probably see that there a little bit. So let me jump back over here to this map. So this is the portion that we have had conversations with the developer about the possibility of us purchasing. So it's that parcel that I just showed you here on the lakefront that includes the upland parcel, which also includes the house that's there. Portion behind that would go along the new road that will be constructed by the developer, Marvella View Lane, as well as a extending piece up to the area that's owned by the Lakewood Meadows Homeowners Association, here where the stormwater management facility is and where the gazebo is. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, and we're very much in this exploring phase. We can have a variety of conversations. As I'm sure a lot of you are aware, the Lakewood Meadows Homeowners Association actually does have a couple of open space portions or stormwater management facilities. They're not exactly what would fall under the definition of open space, but so of course that is certainly one that includes that stormwater facility there. And then there's another one down here that wraps around off of Riley's Run that again is owned by the HOA. Stormwater management facility, and that's really the purpose of those parcels is stormwater management. You also obviously operate some trails throughout the Lakewood Meadows Homeowners Association operates, and the developer originally installed, and I think you do a lot of the maintenance and some of the other properties, including the property adjacent to the new section going out towards Middle Cheshire Road. And then obviously we know we have sidewalks that have been installed on the one side of the road throughout the development. So I guess rather than me keep going on, how about Kathy, I'm gonna turn it back to you, and why don't maybe we could do some questions and answers and just kind of talk through some stuff. And
Sure, great, thank you. So for those of you who also don't know, I do live in Lakewood Meadows myself. I live on Park Meadow Lane across from the open space. You probably know my dog, probably seen him out there, Black Husky. People know him more than they know me, probably. Um, um, Dean, I know you had some questions. So
Yeah.
I would like to make this a question and answer, and we'll take as many questions as we can. If we can't get to them today, you can send us email or any other form of communication that you wish, and we will try to get it. I do want to stress to you as a member of the board that we have asked Doug to look into this. We have heard, and I know that makes people upset when we say that, but that's just a short way of doing it. And I myself would like to see preserving as much land as possible, having open space, having access to the lake, but not at any cost and not without consideration for all the other things that people have expressed concerns about. So the purpose of this today is to hear from you, both positive, negative, ideas, anything that we can get from you. So please understand, while in theory, having a park and open space is always, in my opinion, a good thing. We have to think of all of the possibilities, what the impacts are to landowners, taxpayers, etc. So I've seen people very upset that we're proceeding with this and we haven't considered these things. That's what we're doing now. So with that in mind, I welcome your questions, and if I don't, as I said, if I don't have answers, I will get them.
Okay, Kathy, to start that dialogue, Doug, can you put up that picture again where you show the actual trail behind the immediately adjacent homes? Okay.
So that wouldn't actually be a trail. That would actually be the property.
Okay.
Okay,
that's important to understand then, because the interpretation was that would be, those are trail lines. Maybe that was a misinterpretation. Because what is there a plan to put a trail behind those properties, and where would it be, I guess? Because basically, what I kind of want to focus on, to be very honest, and Kathy, thank you very much for putting this together, by the way. And your comments are totally bang on. I mean, you're trying to balance a few things here, and actually doing something really good, I think, for the town of Canandaigua, trying to get more access to lake and all that. So, but basically, these homes are kind of the ones that are immediately impacted, right? Obviously, so you have 3957 through, I think it's 39. I got the numbers right, 49. I think that's Troy and Tracy's home. Next to them, you have Steve, and you have Deb and Pete. You have myself and my wife, and you have Liz and Ruth all the way to the right, where you said that easement kind of comes in. That's their property. Okay. But the concern was that was the trail. I mean, the thing is, there's not, this is a big open field. There's not a lot of tree cover here for a lot of these homes. Some, yes, but if you go from about where my property goes down to the end, there's to a couple over. I'll let everyone speak for their own property. But there's not much trees there. So if there's a trail right on the property, the concern there is obvious. Like every homeowner, you have concerns about some basic things. First of all, this would be a public access trail. It's not like a trail that's in our community. Okay, so basically, if it was a Lakewood Meadows trail, and I know in Lakewood Meadows, people have some trails behind their homes and stuff. And I think that people generally, when you belong to a community, you respect the property and things of that sort. So there's some concern in that being an open public trail. Okay, sliders, decks, basements are open. Children are playing in the back lawns, things of that sort, and it's right on their back lawn. So I guess the concern there would be where the trail would go and how it'd be designed from my perspective. Okay, and there's quality of life and property values and all the usual concerns that everybody raises whenever the town tries to do something, which is, I know, tough on you guys. Those are kind of the concerns. So a few questions. Is there any way to provide some type of buffer if there is a trail there between the trail and the homeowners? That'd be one of the questions I would have. Instead of being right on the property lines. That's, it's probably drawn to scale there, Doug. We can't tell. And that yellow line is obviously right on the property line, because you said that's where the beginning of the parcel starts, and that's where the parcels for those homeowners stop. Okay. But if you were to come up here, and Kathy's probably seen it too, there's not much tree or line, or they're kind of taken down when the builder put these homes in, right? There's not much there for a bunch of those homes. It's pretty wide open. They're right in people's back lawns. You have pools, you know, trampolines, things of that sort, decks, all that stuff. So if we could provide a buffer, that'd be one of my concerns, to try to give a little bit of space there. Okay, how we design it would help out a lot. Also, how is the access to the trail gonna, how are people gonna access the trail? Are they accessing it only from the lakeside, or are they gonna, or is it plan to access it from Lakewood Meadows as well? Is there a plan to tie that into our trail? I guess that's a question. That is, I think it has other, you know, things we need to think about, right? I mean, like you already said, the trails are managed by the HOA. Now the HOA and the people in the HOA are now managing a trail for the public as well. The public has access through our trails, right? So I'm sure you probably thought through all that. I think to me, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but to me, the concerns are the design and the proximity to those homes, at least for my home. I'll let someone else speak if they want.
Yeah, so let me just address a couple of those. So there haven't been any designs. There is no design. This is just, and there's not even been a design for a trail.
Okay.
This would be property purchase. This would be property, the parcel, the actual borders of the parcel. There at no time has been any talk of connecting to the Lakewood Meadows Homeowners Association trails. We've never ever talked about that. This would be the purchase of this parcel by the town of Canandaigua. The developer, you may or may not know, the developer is also planning to put trails, and they have approval to construct trails back here.
Okay.
So just so everybody's aware, when they do construct these homes, if this is the method that the layout that they do plan to put trails back in here to connect it in there. In terms of trail, I can tell you the conversation that I had with the developer with the possible acquisition of this land is, if the town were to move forward and purchase this, one of the areas of interest for the town in having this piece that comes up here further would be for future, if we worked out some sort of a trail in the future. And to your point, their exact response was, well, we're constructing very nice homes. There's got to be some sort of mitigation if there's going to be a trail back there, right? So they're going to want the same exact thing. And so that's something that would have to be done in the design aspect of, if there was a trail to be constructed back in there in the future, some sort of fencing is what they had even suggested, some sort of additional tree plantings, those types of things. That stuff would all come down the road if we end up acquiring the land. And I can tell you that if we did end up acquiring the land, trail construction, there is no way that would be even on the table for the first couple of years. There's quite a process that we would have to go through, not only working with the town, but working with the neighbors, yourselves, working with Lakewood Meadows HOA, if we're going to come up here and connect, which may or may not. You know, the interesting part about this is, if we could come up here, there's been a request by residents of the community to help connect County Road 16 to Middle Cheshire Road. And some of the comments that we've heard have actually also been from residents in Lakewood Meadows about the ability to be able to walk and connect with the pathway that's on Middle Cheshire Road. So, you know, this, maybe in the future, we would have to work that out with the HOA if there's a connection opportunity to come up here to get to the sidewalk system that would then go out to the road. But that's all to be determined later. This is just strictly land acquisition. So.
And if I could just jump in too, and I see a couple of you have your hands up, before I forget, the property also has interest for lake water quality preservation. I'm also on the Canandaigua Lake Watershed Council. Kevin Mulvaney is working with the town, with Doug, and you may have read the city, to obtain grant funds to help with the purchase. So Kevin Mulvaney is planning on being at our town board meeting on Friday morning. So if you can be there, I would suggest that you come to that meeting. We're also going to be continuing the hearing. If he can be there, and I'll check to make sure ahead of time, he will give you more insight into how that particular piece is of value. The state is interested in it to help with water quality preservation. So it's not simply trail. There's other value to that property.
Okay, when I look at the parcel though, and understanding that Mancini is going to want to put in trails or something like that, or some type of buffer, I see why he'd be very interested in actually, pushing the parcel right up to the butt of our development there. It just seems like it's in close proximity. So enough's been said on it in terms of my concern. I just think the design, if you do a trail, the devil is in the details. The design will matter. And I would just like to understand what that design is and be part and have some input on it. Okay, that's kind of the
Randy.
primary.
All right, thank you.
This is
Adeline, I see that you have your hand up.
Randy's going to go up here.
Hi, yes,
Yeah,
I'm also a
yeah.
Lakewood Meadows resident on White Cliff Drive.
Can you speak
I
up a
have the
little bit,
sidewalk.
Adeline?
I can you hear me now any better? Okay, I was just saying I'm also a Lakewood Meadows resident on White Cliff Drive with the sidewalk across my property as well. And I also helped to design the layout of our current Lakewood HOA trail system with a lot of help from very important people who've done a lot of maintenance on the trails. I also was part of our Town of Canandaigua Trails Committee that came up with our Trails Master Plan in the Town of Canandaigua. And I'm excited about the possibility of this purchase because it would fulfill something that we've been asking for years, which is more connectors between Middle Cheshire Road and Cheshire and the Lakefront and Westlake Road. I also think it would be an excellent protector of the environmental quality of the lake as well. I also, along with Dean, have some concerns because it is right along the property edges there. Doug and Kathy, how wide is that? Is that about 60 feet wide, that easement currently? Okay, so it is about 60 feet wide. I know up towards the pond where I've kind of walked in there, there's definitely a little bit of tree coverage. I'm not sure down closer to Dean's property how much tree coverage there is there. I also had a question about how steep that slope is, because I know on Weifels Road, it's quite steep, obviously, coming down there. So do we know how steep that is between the edge of the Riley's Run properties and Anna Linda there?
There, we haven't done any survey work or anything at all like that. The developer certainly has all the survey as well as all the topo. We have the national topo data. Yes, there's definitely slope. It's not so steep that a sewer line couldn't be put on there, and it actually had to be flattened out for the sewer line. And so it would actually be that exact spot where the sewer line lays.
So we're not going to need to do switchbacking with any sort of trail access or anything like that.
No, not per se switchbacking, but stormwater management. We did do a trail in the future, would have to be factored in how we do that, and water that would run off of a potential either natural surface trail or I would think that in the future, if we were to put in a trail, it would have to be either some sort of natural surface or maybe even some sort of like stone dust that has some stormwater controls. There's no way that I know of that you could really do a pervious type of surface without significant stormwater control because of the way it would come down off of that. So
yeah, I would have to agree with that. And then, I mean, finally, I think personally, I'm excited about the possibility for this to increase property values because I know, if you think of, for example, some of the homes off of Butler Road right now, I think their property values are greatly increased by the fact that they have walkable access to the lake and to public lakefront property. I think this could really impact our properties in a positive way in Lakewood Meadows. And without costing us extra taxes for having lake frontage. So I'm kind of excited about that. And I'm very positive about the project at this point. Have a few questions as well about the cost impact of purchasing the land, which I'd love for you guys to discuss a little bit further as well.
Okay, Adeline, we're going to try to get to as many people as we can. We have about an hour, but I'll try to stay on longer myself. So we'll come back around to that. I'm sure everyone has that question. Deborah, I see a hand up, and I'll get Deborah Gregory.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for arranging this meeting. Pete and I live next to Dean. We are 3953 Riley's Run. And while I'm a strong proponent, we are strong proponents of creating a blue zone type environment in Canandaigua. The issue, as it is with Dean, is the privacy issue or some kind of tree line or something. You know, we have a pool in the backyard that we've invested a lot of money in. We were aware that there may be a development in the back at some point. We were cringing about the thought of it. However, when I heard that the town was going to buy this, my first response to Dean was, well, I'd rather have them back up to us than a development, which is true. However, I would hope that the town would work with us, as Dean implied, to create some kind of privacy issue. So when we were out enjoying our backyard, we didn't have people standing there staring at us in our bathing suits. It's bad enough Dean has to look at it.
I hear you.
Kathy, if I just could, so on
Of
that,
course.
if we get to the point where we do acquire the property, and then if we get to the point, these are a couple of ifs, where we're looking to construct a trail, we will definitely, well, as we get, before we get into the design, we'll have public hearings. We'll have our Parks and Rec committee that Adeline is also part of, involved with that. We'll have public meetings with the town board. So there's definitely going to be opportunity if we acquire the property, if we decide to do a trail, for the public to be involved in that down the road.
And my other comment is behind us, it's all wetlands. So people have looked at that, correct? It's all cattails and swampy and all sorts of critters and rodents come out from there. It's quite interesting, actually.
Yes, ma'am. We have all the wetlands have been officially delineated as is required, and all of the New York State DEC permits have been issued for the development. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Gleason.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just make sure. We are at 3951 Riley's Run, right next to Deb and Pete, and 2 doors down from Dean and Janine. I'd like to echo, I think Dean has done a wonderful job of articulating our hopes and concerns for the project. And we also would like to echo what Deb and Pete have said. The one question that I have is whether or not the trail, how the trail is developed will be largely determined by the width of the right-of-way that you propose to purchase now. So I want to confirm again, what is the width of the right-of-way that you will be purchasing that is directly behind our houses?
So it actually would not be a right-of-way. So this would actually be a new parcel, a new land parcel. So there would actually be a subdivision. And so what the current proposal is, are these parcels that are highlighted in yellow here on the screen. So it would be the width at that, that would be the westernmost portion of that parcel, would be, as Adeline was saying, it's approximately 65 feet plus or minus there. It does taper, as you can kind of see. It's a little bit hard to see, but it would taper out and become wider the farther to the east that it goes. And that is basically what the developer is willing to sell. The developer, you know, this is not anything like, we don't do eminent domain. We don't take properties for any purpose. This parcel does have an easement on it under this particular portion, but this is basically what the owner of the land is willing to sell to the town, excluding from their project. So it would be about 65 feet wide at the westernmost portion, and then it does widen out. As you get further down, and again, official surveys haven't been done or anything, as you get down closer to Marvella View Drive, it widens out, I think, 120 feet approximately. So it is a taper type of a parcel.
All right, so the trail could be located anywhere within that width then, ultimately.
Yes.
That's all I wanted here. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gleason. Mr. West.
Yes, I'm thinking in terms of security, and would be wondering what that particular parcel that comes up behind Riley's Run there, what that strip, what that would cost if say the HOA was to purchase that, because if that's open for general public, then general public comes up from the park and up into Riley's Run on our trails. And if we're trying to maintain our trails as private property now for the use of our community, then would it be feasible to purchase that strip so we have control over that and behind those houses? Because we could post no trespassing at the easternmost point of that particular strip of land, and say for, private property and this sort of thing. That way it would secure the houses that the north part of Riley's there that abut that property.
So that's a great, it's a great out of the box thinking idea, first of all, kudos. So a couple of things, no appraisal has been done on this property yet. We are estimating that the total acquisition for all of it, including the lake frontage, is plus or minus $1.3 million. I don't know what that particular strip so there's currently two parcels, as I showed you on the other map. So there's one parcel here, and then this strip, as we're kind of calling it here, this would be subdivided portion of an existing parcel that already exists and is owned by the developer. I guess the first thing I would say is if the town acquires it, the town is not permitted to sell it because it would be purchased for recreational purposes. So there's actually a state law that prohibits us from alienating parkland without special state legislation. So the town wouldn't have any way of selling it to the HOA. Whether or not the developer would subdivide that off and sell it to the HOA, I don't know. I'm going to guess, and this would be a decision that would have to be made by the developer, but I'm going to guess that they may have some reservations about that because they will need to do an amendment to their site plan. And it would have to be, well, the only thing, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, the only way for that to do is basically the developer would have to be willing to sell that portion to the HOA, and the HOA would have to do what's called a lot line adjustment and combine it with this parcel. So it's an interesting question. That would take some significant research, and somebody from the HOA would need to have a conversation with the developer to see if they would do it.
I mean, the HOA purchasing that land from the developer would be to his benefit as well, because if they're going to put in trails on their property, then there's public access to their trails as well. Whereas if there was if our HOA was to purchase that would restrict access from the general public to both his trails and our trails, and it would ensure more privacy and security for both pieces of property.
Yeah, Kathy, and I think that there would also be some legal questions if the town acquired this piece and this piece for public access, and then yet the HOA is obtaining. I think there's just some questions, some logistics we'd have to work through, but it's a great question. It's a neat idea.
And I think, for me being town supervisor, but also a resident, there may be a conflict of interest for me pursuing this now as for an HOA. I'm not saying you guys can't do it, but understand that may be a conflict of interest for me. And if we take that away, not on a personal level, but on a professional level, if we took that parcel away, then we have to consider its value to the town. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less, I don't know. But that's certainly something that you can consider. And, there are a lot of other options to be considered, and that's kind of why we're here today. I hope you all can understand what I mean when I say it might be a conflict for me.
Well, as a strip, it's undevelopable as far as anything other than a trail.
All right, I see Dave or Gail. I can't see your full name. I only see a hand. You're muted though.
I have a question about Westbrook's land. There's a rectangle there that hits up to that yellow line. Is that privately owned or is that part of Westbrook's land?
The parcel, this parcel
Yeah.
here is privately owned by the Westbrook family. That was a subdivision that they had done.
Okay, and could you tell me where the sewer lines are ending right now?
The sewer lines for Lakewood Meadows actually run along basically the backs of these lines here, come off this corner right here, and they come right down here.
And the new development, I forgot what you said his name was, they do not need that strip to access the sewer lines? Are they going to tie into the same sewer line that west of that Lakewood Meadows is in?
It's a county sewer line, and so this development would be tying into the county sewer line.
And that comes from Lakewoods or it comes from Westlake?
It comes from here, and it comes down to Westlake and then pumps up Westlake Road, County Road
And
6.
I guess I have a question too. You're buying really 3 parcels of land. We thought there were 2. So there's the lakefront, and there's that funny little triangular shape, and then there's the part that comes all the way up to the back of Acorn, right?
Correct.
Not Acorn, Riley's Run. And what, I guess I don't understand what that is going to be used for. People will park, I would assume, down at the lake and just walk up that narrow strip, turn around and go back down. Is that the use of it?
Well, again, as Adeline was saying, a lot of our planning documents from the Trails and Rec Master Plan, as well as the comprehensive plan, talk about walkability and the connection of Middle Cheshire Road to County Road 16, whether that is residents of Lakewood Meadows or, and again, for right now, if the town acquires these pieces that are highlighted in yellow, I guess theoretically a resident of Lakewood Meadows could walk across their property and come down along this and get down and access the lakefront that way. There would be proposed as kind of the idea that we've talked about is parking down here adjacent to the house, as well as the use of the lakefront in this area. The spur or this piece here, the only real purpose of that would be for accessibility to this lower portion. Again, connecting up to a higher level. And then, whether or not that we enter into some sort of an agreement between the town and the HOA to get out here to the sidewalk, those are all the details that would have to be figured out at a later date.
And that development, I know that it's going on for a while, and they did originally want to have houses there that had dockage on the lake. Do they still have lake frontage, or is the only lake frontage that development will have is the town in the highlighted yellow?
That development would have no lake direct access. If the town acquires the stuff that's in yellow, everybody, all residents of the town of Canandaigua would have access through that.
And that right now is owned by whom?
The developer.
The developer. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. Let's see. Does anyone else have any questions?
I have a question. My name is Dave.
Hi, Dave.
and We live at 3904 Riley's Run. The west portion of the yellow line seems to come right up to somebody's backyard. Is that how that is? Is it connected to the gazebo area?
So let me just flip over here to this other map. So this is that larger parcel that we're talking about. So that yellow strip kind of comes up here. So this is already an existing parcel that's owned by the developer. So yes, it does come up, that's the property boundaries meet there in terms of 3903 Riley's Run, as well as 39, each one of those back right up to that. So, in terms of if the developer ends up constructing a trail up through here, that's something that was on their plan from many years ago. If they come in and do a amendment to their site plan, then maybe there could be some additional conversations and consideration. But this overall existing parcel currently does come up here. So again, the yellow piece, if I were to draw a line here, let me just draw a quick line here. And let me see if I can make it yellow. Give me just a second here. Let's try this. So if I were to draw a line, you know, that's basically what we're looking to do, is come off of using that existing parcel that's already there, without changing really, and the developer's trying to prohibit a bunch of changes to their already approved plan.
So it doesn't go up to the gazebo.
Now the gazebo is right here. So the gazebo, let me just move this up. So here's the gazebo here on the HOA's property.
Right.
So this is the property that's owned by, let me highlight that for you so everybody can see it and zoom out. So this parcel here is the parcel that's owned by the HOA.
Right.
And Dave, if you've ever walked the trail around that pond, the stormwater retention pond, it
Yeah.
would butt up to that property. So when you walk down White Cliff across Acorn Hill past the gazebo, it would abut that property.
RCM's property abuts the HOA property. Is that what you-
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you.
Donna. You're muted, Donna.
Okay. Do you have any idea when the developer intends to start building?
The developer had plans to actually start in 2020. I think COVID probably slowed it down a little bit, but they have plans to, I think, really get going in 2021.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? And again, I invite you to join our town board meeting on Friday morning if you can, if you think of any other questions. And you can always reach out to Doug or me or anyone else.
Kathy, I think Adeline had asked a question about finances. Do you
Oh,
remember
yes.
that?
Adeline, back to your question. Doug, do you want to touch on financing?
Yeah, I was just wondering about potential financial impacts of this, and maybe you could talk a little smidge more about what you were thinking for the actual lake frontage portion of it.
Yes, we actually had in the town board meeting, actually, if you'll give me just a second, let me pull up that presentation just because I think it'd be easier to show you that. Give me just a quick second here.
And while Doug's doing that, that presentation and that board meeting is available online, Town of Canandaigua, YouTube. So if you haven't seen it, I think Doug also had a link to his presentation. And
Kathy, I think you provide that link to some of us. Maybe we can just send that again or whatever. Put on it. And so that's a good, you can download the whole, it's a big file, folks, like 23 meg. I was going to send it to some of my neighbors. I thought I didn't want to clog their email, but
I will do that.
Okay.
There's, yeah, I think it is on the website. So the link, I think, would be a little bit easier there. I'm just going to jump down here to the RSM piece here. Okay.
While you're pulling it up, Doug, for Mancini, when he does, the only access he plans for that development is off from Westlake. He's not coming in from Whitefulls or anything like that.
Correct. That is correct. Marvella View Drive would go in, loop up around, and then come back to County Road 16.
Okay.
And so you can actually see it here. This is taken directly from the Encore subdivision, but it is what they call a paper road that exists.
Would you by chance know, you might not have this detail, and maybe he hasn't shared, but for Mancini, if he's going to start this in 2021, do you know what phase of homes he's looking at doing first? Just out of curiosity.
I believe that he plans to start at the lower level and work up as he kind of goes through that process.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
This is I just kind of shared. Here's some of the photos that we took in the fall. You can see some of the leaves down of the parcel. Again, this is the parcel, and I'm going to zoom in on this so we can talk about this a little bit more here. So the green is an area that could be used for recreational purposes. The area in red that makes up the rest of that piece is an area that we would be looking to protect through what they call open space funding, as well as DEC grant money that has been approved to be used for this project if we move forward on the acquisition of this. So there's DEC source water protection, and the DEC is interested in the possibility of protecting this because that portion that's in red has very steep slopes on the lakeside portion, as well as the proximity to the city of Canandaigua's intake pipe, which is where all of our municipal water comes from. And so they're looking for opportunities specifically to protect shoreline in a natural state because of the infiltration or the filtration that you get, for instance, of stormwater runoff through natural vegetative state. So that's why we were looking at maybe only utilizing a smaller portion of the lake frontage for possible public access, for instance, like a floating dock, which I believe I'll show you here in a second on another slide, and really utilizing an existing pathway that's there that goes from County Road 16 down to that property, down to this lower portion right here, with only about 100 to 150 feet being used for recreational purposes, with the rest of it all being protected in its natural vegetative state for that open source, that source water protection and the grant money that's available there for that. I'm going to just jump here for a quick second. These are some of the views. Here, I'll just share them with you here. Let me zoom out for a quick second. So that would be the view looking to the north. This is on County Road 16 looking to the north. Obviously, this is that area that is the steepest portion behind the guardrail. The next view here would be looking to the south along County Road 16. There is an existing path that kind of works its way down here towards the water and utilizing that. The next view would be looking to the east, or yes, to the east. Zoom out for a quick second here. The next view looking to the west, that would be looking up the hill with the homestead would be included on the parcel here that we would acquire if we move forward. There is a set of steps. There is a path that already exists there to the home, to the Arnold Johnson homestead there. And then utilizing, putting some additional parking up here near the home, utilizing that existing path. We would have to cross County Road 16, put a crosswalk here, utilizing the existing pathway down to the lake, and then putting something in like this floating dock so that people could go out. This would not be, this would, I don't really see this ever being Ononda Park. This is the topography just isn't going to allow it. The topography is just not going to allow it for something like that. But certainly utilizing the existing path, maybe a few benches here or something on the lake or on the land portion, and then utilizing something like a floating dock where it could be large enough to have picnic tables and stuff out on the floating dock. Another municipality, the town of Bethlehem, whoops, sorry about that. The town of Bethlehem just did this similar concept not too long ago, where they actually put in this particular floating dock as a way to provide some public access, whether it's fishing, whether it's a possible kayak launch, or whether it's just going down for a picnic and enjoying the waterfront. Again, utilizing that. Parking, there is plenty of room to put in approximately 20 parking places. That would have to be engineered. This is just to show you an example here. The interesting part about this point, one of the things that we look at when we look at possible future uses, including swimming, while we're not talking about swimming access here right now, you know, whether or not that could be something that could be considered off of that platform in the future with lifeguards, it could be discussed. The interesting part here is you can see the shelf in the lake. And I know I've gotten asked since my presentation, why do you care about the shelf in the lake? Well, there's all kinds of regulations that the Department of Health puts on us in order for us to operate a swimming beach. We currently operate the two, Butler Road Schoolhouse as well as Ononda. Ononda, and I showed this on a later slide in this presentation. Ononda Park, you can only go out 92 feet and then it drops off. It's about 100+ foot drop off into the lake. Whereas with these shelves, you get a very gradual incline. So it's much safer for children. It's much safer for somebody who's not a very good swimmer, where they can go and wade into the water and use the water, whether or not they choose to, go underwater or not, that's up to them. They would have that choice versus a complete drop off. So this parcel does have a shelf there on the lake. Not all the lake has shelves or has very narrow shelves. It's just the way the lake was designed. And then I think we get into the finances. So again, the $1.3 million price is an estimate. It's a guesstimate. We would have to do appraisals to actually determine the actual value of the parcel if we do move forward. Estimating that the way that we would do that is we would do 2 appraisals. The town would purchase or pay for one appraisal by a certified appraiser. The developer would pay for an appraisal by a certified appraiser, and we would take the average of the 2. I think generally speaking, it's going to be somewhere in that $1.3 million price tag, give or take, would be the estimated for the actual acquisition. And we'll just kind of leave that there. Build out cost, we would be talking about very minor, really build out costs, because what we would be trying to do, this would not include the trail. That would come later down the road, and we would have to look at that down the road. But for actual public access, all we'd really be talking about is a floating dock. So you'd be talking somewhere, give or take 100,000, plus obviously we do parking lots quite frequently. We've constructed parking lots in our other parks. That's using our town forces to construct the parking lot. And again, it would be more of a passive recreational. We would not be talking about lifeguards here. We would be talking about this floating dock per se, that would be utilized for fishing access, again, for the picnicking, those types of things. That does not at all take into account that trail that we discussed earlier. Again, that would have to come later down the road. I want to touch on financing. Let me jump down here a little bit. I thought I had maybe I missed it. Maybe I.
Doug, that 1.3 million was for all 3 parcels, right? That's the estimate right now.
Yes, yes, correct.
And although Doug had a slide, a portion of the slide, revenue sources, there are other revenue sources, of course, that we can look into. So that's for the build out when we're talking about the dock. On that slide, you had other, obviously we would seek grants like we always do if we can reduce the cost to the town.
Right. So we do know that here's the piece that I was looking for the acquisition, 1.3 million approximately. We know that there is approximately 350,000, this DEC grant that we have mentioned through the Canandaigua Lake Watershed Council. The city of Canandaigua as the entity that basically governs the finances for the Canandaigua Lake Watershed Council, they have voted in their environmental committee to approve the use of that 350,000 for the town to acquire that grant. We have open space revenue, or I'm sorry, open space reserve that we could also utilize for that open space protection piece, specifically that portion that I talked about that has the natural vegetative habitat that we would be looking to protect. We could utilize, and this analogy shows here that 700,000 coming from that open space fund, with about 250,000 plus or minus coming from our Parks and Rec fund that's currently existing. So that brings us to that 1.3 million, and we would not need to bond anything. That's all the use of that grant money and the existing reserve monies, the existing funds that we have. So that's why in this slide here, I show there's no impact to the tax rate, because there wouldn't be. There would be no need to increase taxes either for debt service or for use to acquire that land at that $1.3 million. That keeps the tax rate unchanged.
Let me see. I see Mr. West.
Yes, while there may not be any need to to float a bond for this, does taking that money away from those other resources create a potential future need to float a bond to make up for that withdrawal?
Great question. So the Open Space Reserve Fund currently has about $1.2 million in it. It's very specific on what it can be used for, and it can only be used for open space protection. So it's not like that money would be used for the operations of the town. We're actually not allowed to use it for operations of the town. It can only be used for open space protection. So it's a very dedicated, very specific reserve fund that can only be used for that specific purpose. And then the Parks and Rec Fund, I think off the top of my head, I want to say it has approximately $600,000 in it. That fund is the fund that is where the money comes from for that park fund is when, and many of you have just built a new house in Lakewood Meadows. When the builder comes to get the building permit, the builder has to pay a $1,000 fee to the town of Canandaigua for future use of parks and recreation. And every single permit that was issued in Lakewood Meadows, the developer paid that $1,000 fee. That $1,000 fee can only be used for new park and rec opportunities by the town. It can't be used for maintenance. It can't be used for other things. So again, it's a very dedicated reserve that would not impact the operations. So in I guess you could look at it in one essence, the developer who constructed your houses and let's face it, you, because the developer would have passed that cost on to you. Some of you have already paid that fee that would help to cover the acquisition of that.
And this is by town finance, state town finance law. It's not just a rule that we made up about how things can be spent. When we get audited, when we do our own internal audits, we can only keep a certain amount of money in there to begin with, and we end up getting yelled at if we keep too much money in there and don't spend it for things that it's there for. We have to keep a balance between available funds, purchasing property, how much is coming in and going out, and that's all regulated by state law.
But in terms of the, Kathy, I think you might be muted there. In terms of the actual acquisition, there would be, there's clearly no direct impact to the tax rate. There would be no need for that. The other parcel that we talked about in the presentation, if we did move forward with that, yes, there's absolutely an impact. And then, in a phased out build out of this, even with that trail future, you're talking about years down the road before we would look to do that. And there's a lot of pieces to figure out, that may be able to be incorporated in the existing parks budget. In the existing parks budget, we do maintenance and build out each year. Kathy, I believe we have somebody with their hand up.
All right. You want to just start speaking? I'm not seeing. Oh,
yeah.
Rusty?
Yeah, hi, Doug. This is Rusty Barone. I'm at 3903 Riley's Run, which is where that trail butts up into our backyard. And I'm curious, the two parcels that we're talking about here, yeah, so I'm all the way up on the Riley's Run. Is it right there? Yeah. So which two parcels are we including in that $1.3 million purchase price?
It would be all three. It would be the
it'd be all three.
This parcel and this parcel, yes.
Okay.
So Rusty, I don't know if you just joined us recently, but I think this is being recorded.
Yeah.
And so we can have it available for people to watch as well as the town board presentation.
Yeah, I've been on since the beginning, and I'm just curious. I just wanted to know if that 1.3 million was going to be including everything outlined in yellow.
Okay. Yes.
It does. And the assessed value for the two parcels is about $900,000. So that 900,000 would come off of the tax rolls if the town does acquire that.
So the town's talking about buying all these parcels?
The parcels in yellow, yes.
Okay. What's the assessed value of that small strip that runs behind Riley's Run there?
Very minimal. It's part of that overall larger parcel. So here I can tell you that this whole parcel.
Yeah.
As soon as it populates here, I'll show you what the assessed value of it is. It's assessed at $10,000.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And just so you all know, I think you can all have access to this information on Ontario County Encore. you go onto Ontario County, you can click around and get all this information yourself at any time. It's all public information. So what Doug is looking at right now is public information.
So,
Yes, Richard.
so Doug, that you're saying that strip of land, that just one, that little strip is $10,000?
No, well, so this whole parcel that's currently highlighted on my screen here in blue
Uh-huh.
is currently assessed for $10,600.
I think the bigger point, though, is it's going to be difficult for anybody to wrestle that whole parcel from, obviously, from Mancini. He wants control of that because he's doing a complex. So it's interesting that he's willing to sell that strip. And I'm getting the sense here from the discussion, Doug, it's the reason why he's willing to sell that strip is it doesn't really impact his plans, other than coming down and butting into the one lot in his development on the south side of the one lot near the end of the proposed third parcel there. But
yeah,
that's probably going to be the only portion that he'd be willing to actually relent on behind those homes, right? I'm guessing. Is that the case?
correct.
Yeah.
Well, it eliminates any liability to him of that strip where the sewer line goes down too.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, anytime you have a developer, they're a businessman, right? So there's
Yep, they are.
benefit to him, benefit, if there's a benefit to us, then, if after all those questions are answered, that's the ultimate question. Is it worth it to us after considering all those things? We know why it might be worth it to the developer.
Sure. Yeah.
Not thinking of, that there are altruistic necessarily motives, but if that's what they want to do, then we say, okay, how if it's good for us, how can we do it, and is it safe for us, and all those things you're bringing up. So
Yeah, understand. I think this discussion was very informative because and enlightening in terms of giving us that idea of what Mancini plans on doing already. Because my first request was, why were we not just pushing it more north? Okay, and so now I understand why you really can't. But the point that Adeline brought up, along with Steve, hitting the question again here, where that third parcel width at the west side, which is the skinniest side of that spur that you're showing me before, is 60 to 65 feet, and it tapers out a little bit. So if, like you said, Doug, if and when a trail goes in, it could be placed anywhere within that 60 feet. So that might itself, from my concern anyways, give us that buffer that we're looking for the homes immediately adjacent on Riley's Run there.
Well,
I have to say, I'd much rather have the town have control of that little piece than this other developer who is obviously going to have a vested interest in improving his development over ours. So
I agree with that. I agree with that point. Totally agree with that point. So.
And I'd rather have control of it for our HOA.
Yeah, I like what you're suggesting on that, but that's a bigger discussion, obviously.
and again, that's a discussion on your part, and being a town representative, I can't.
It's a big difference in price, because if he's looking for 1.3 million for all three parcels, but the assessed value on the lower two parcels is 900,000, then he's looking for 400,000 for that strip.
I don't know that he would actually sell that strip separately. I mean, I think one of the reasons why he's interested in, or even willing, I guess I should say, to sell it to the town of Canandaigua is because it would be the town of Canandaigua, and the rest of that portion would be open space, because it does start to affect his plan. If he sells that to the town of Canandaigua, he has to go back to the planning board and get an amendment to his site plan. I think ideally he would rather sell this parcel and this parcel to the town of Canandaigua, and he'd rather, whoops, I stole my little thing here on. And that was the original conversation. I'll be honest with you here. Let me just highlight those two. That was the original conversation, is that, computer slowing down here on me, is to sell these two to the town of Canandaigua, and he would retain all of this. But again, looking for connection points, that's why I ask about this possibility of that spur going out farther. But that also requires some work on their part, again, where they would have to do an amendment, and we'd have to work through that with them.
Okay, so that extra piece there is a wish list on the town's part then.
Right. Or future connectivity is what I would say.
All right, I think we're at just past 10:30, so we're going to wrap it up. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Thank you very much, Doug, for your providing all the nuts and bolts for everyone. And join us on Friday, and I will send the link, or we can make sure that it's available somehow. We'll get that information out to you. I can post it on the Facebook page if it wasn't already posted, the HOA Facebook page. All right, everyone, thank you very much.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
See you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.